Ahoy there, mates. Welcome aboard the VHS Pirate Ship. I'm Captain Adam, and welcome to Captain Adam's Show and Tell. Yes, it's the no frills, no thrills way to get your fill of chill. It's the show and tell that treats you well. It's Captain Adam's Show and Tell. And the holidays are here, ladies and gentlemen. So Merry Christmas to all and season's greetings. Happy holidays. It's a rainy day here on the VHS Pirate Ship. I'm very glad that I'm nice and dry below deck here, but you can probably hear the rain a little bit, so apologies there, but it should help you relax. I like the sound of rain. Hopefully it won't be too distracting. It's Christmas time, and it'd be better if it were snow, I suppose. It'd be more Christmassy that way, but sometimes it just rains. It's not quite that cold for snow yet. So let me ask you, how you doing out there? You having a good time? Are you excited for the holidays? Do you like the holidays? Do you like Christmas? Or maybe not so much. Maybe it's just sort of humdrum for you for whatever reason. Well, either way, I'm certainly glad that you joined me here today, and hopefully I can cheer you up a little bit and maybe put you in the Christmas spirit with these Christmas special VHS. There are quite a few here. We will get through them, so certainly just sit back and relax, and let's get started. Now, I myself am a big fan of Christmas time, a big fan of the holidays, and for me, the holidays really start at Halloween. I consider Halloween, one of the holidays, the trifecta of the major holidays. You could say, well, I guess there's New Year's, which that's more than a trifecta, but I think it's Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. To me, that's the holiday season. So it begins with Halloween. That means, speaking of Halloween, does anybody have any jack-o'-lanterns left that they just had to throw out in the woods or throw away because they just got they finally dilapidated on you? Because of course, jack-o'-lanterns, once you carve a pumpkin, there is a time limit. The clock is ticking after that. Now, where I was, I carved quite a few jack-o'-lanterns, and where I was, it was rather warm for an October, so they sort of got floppy a little quicker than they normally would had it been colder out. So I did have to dispose of them basically pretty soon after they were carved, because they were just they were a wreck. So when do you throw away your jack-o'-lanterns? Because that's usually the telltale sign that the holidays are here. Once you throw your jack-o'-lantern away, it's time for Thanksgiving or it's time for Christmas, depending on how long they last. I always feel bad for throwing them away, because it's like, it's a piece of art. You carved it. You put a lot of effort into it, a lot of love into it, and it's sad to see it just sort of flop away and dissolve into itself. But that's the way of things. And I noticed something years and years and years ago. I carved a pumpkin, and I had gotten rid of it in November. Just sort of threw it out in the woods, or just in like a pile out in the garden. And I suppose, just to let it deteriorate on its own and rejoin the earth, as it were, but I suppose there was one or two seeds left in it, because come March, there was a pretty sturdy pumpkin vine growing, and it actually had, it bore 3 pumpkins that grew to be pretty nice looking pumpkins. And that made me think of how durable pumpkins are and how versatile they are. They can pretty much grow in anything, because I didn't water this pumpkin seed. I did nothing to contribute to this vine growing. So that always stuck in my mind, at how just durable pumpkins are, especially comparable to other flowers or plants that you try to take care of and they end up dying anyway. Here we have a pumpkin vine growing with basically no effort whatsoever. It was a total accident. So that's pretty interesting. Pumpkins are something certainly to be thankful for. I know it sounds pretty small, but it is. Pumpkins are very abundant. They're very hardy. They're a blessing from God. So yeah, but so enough about pumpkins and stuff like that. Let's get into these Christmas special VHS. First up, we have what has to be the absolute king of Christmas specials with Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. This is what put Rankin and Bass on the map and pretty much made them the go-to production company for any kind of holiday special. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, when you think of holiday special, really, or Christmas special, you really have to think of this first. This was a huge deal, still is, and this belonged to somebody named Stark. I don't know if that's Tony Stark. Perhaps this was Iron Man's copy of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. As you can see, this is sort of just a plain Jane distribution. The sleeve doesn't have any still shots from the actual film. This is a 1989 Family Home Entertainment distribution. Very, very plain Jane. As you can see, the cover doesn't even have any pictures from the actual special. It's just a drawn picture. I'm not really sure what's going on there, but rest assured, this is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. So it's sort of a little lackluster distribution there, but that's okay. It's all right. Now, it's not the only Rankin and Bass special I have. I also have Santa Claus is Coming to Town. Quite possibly in the maybe second place as far as popular Rankin and Bass Christmas specials go. I don't know. Maybe they did so many of them. I guess this is certainly up there. This is a later distribution. Well, first of all, it's got some damage there, but that happens. This was a thrift store find, 50 cents. 50 cents, so I'm not really concerned about the damage. Just sort of had to have it. This is a late distribution, 2001. So that's they were putting these bad boys out all the way up into the early 2000s, and of course I also have 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, a classically animated Rankin and Bass special. It's not stop motion, it's just ink cells, classic animation. Warner Brothers distribution here with the very impressive Warner Brothers label, with even the color emblem. That's pretty nice. Let's see, what year is this? If I can read the tiny writing, I couldn't really make it out, but that's okay. So that is the only Rankin and Bass Christmas specials I have. I don't have Frosty the Snowman or any of the other ones, which is curious. I should at least have Frosty the Snowman. But with these, I don't really seek them out because, in my opinion, I think Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is really the best one out of all of them. And if I come across them in the wild, I'll certainly pick them up like I did with these three. But I'm not going to seek them out on the internet, and I don't know. I'm just not that interested in them. If I come across them, out there shopping, thrifting, I will get them just to sort of have them. But let's move on. Another absolute classic with a Charlie Brown Christmas. When it comes to Christmas specials, usually you think of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and a Charlie Brown Christmas. This was huge. Excuse me. This was huge deal. Still is. And the history goes that this almost wasn't made because the producers did not think this was going to really hold any water. So very, very silly of them to think that. So let's just be grateful that they decided to go with it anyway, because it became a huge hit. This is a 1994 distribution. Of course, it is Paramount Home Video. So let's see what it really is. What does the tape say? Just what I thought. It's a 95 distribution. If you watch this channel, then you know that Paramount Home Video is very frustrating as a distributor. It's frustrating to a VHS collector trying to find out what movie, how many distributions a movie had. And Paramount, of course, does this thing where they put one date on the sleeve, and then the actual cassette is years later. So it's like you really have to examine your Paramount Home Video tapes to certainly know what year it's actually from, because just because the sleeve says something doesn't mean that's what it is. And a lot of distributors did that. I know Media Entertainment is famous for doing that as well, but that's just the way it goes. And always look at when it comes to dating your tapes, always look at the cassette. That always tells you what year it's actually from. So yes, a Charlie Brown Christmas, most certainly just synonymous with Christmas, and what a soundtrack. It's become part of Christmas. Like radio stations play it. It's just part of Christmas music, and it's great music. It's just wonderful stuff. Wonderful stuff. Beautifully done. The music is just something, just an entire entity of itself. Very, it's very charged. It really, really puts you in the Christmas spirit, or at least it does for me. So that's what it is. A Charlie Brown Christmas. Not a very long special. I believe this is only like 20 minutes, but certainly impactful. So let's move on. Here we have another absolute classic with How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Certainly up there. I usually refer to this as the Trinity of Christmas specials because you have Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and Charlie Brown Christmas, and certainly How the Grinch Stole Christmas is right up there with those. This also belonged to Tony Stark, apparently. This is a 1988 MGM home video distribution. Another rather short Christmas special, only 26 minutes, but certainly impactful, just like the rest of them are. And this very impressive tape. It's got the shiny silver MGM cassette label. So that is a very, very impressive tape. This would have plenty of distributions, but this is the only one that I have. They would distribute this all the way up until 2000, I believe. So yeah, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, certainly synonymous with Christmas, much like Rudolph and Charlie Brown Christmas. This most notable for being narrated by Boris Karloff and being directed and animated by Chuck Jones, the mastermind that is or was Chuck Jones, one of his finest pieces of work. I'm a huge Chuck Jones fan. Just love the animation style, and this is no exception. Yes, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, when this came on TV, you certainly, you certainly made it a point to watch it, just like the other two specials we've seen so far today. Yes, the Christmas special trinity of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Charlie Brown Christmas, and How the Grinch Stole Christmas certainly have to be the three most impactful Christmas specials. Now, I'm sure that's debatable, but, we all have our own opinions, but I think that's pretty true. So let's move on. Now, we're sort of moving into the more modern era, I suppose you could say, of Christmas specials with Will Vinton's Claymation Christmas Celebration. A rather underrated Christmas classic, really, I should say. This aired on CBS, I believe it was, in '87. And I think they played it again the following year, but that might have been about it. You didn't really hear much of this after that. It certainly did not get the airtime that the other three Christmas specials we've talked about today did. This is a 1994 distribution from Family Home Entertainment. This was not easy to find at all. It's certainly not that common. At least it wasn't a few years ago when I sought it out to buy it. Yes, this was a sought and bought VHS. Sought it and then I bought it. So it was sort of hard to come by. Now, Will Vinton is best known for this Christmas special, but he also did an Easter special in the same vein with the Claymation Easter. This aired in '91, I think, but it didn't air where I grew up. It wasn't in the local markets, so I never saw this. Didn't even know it existed to probably just a couple years ago. And I did come across the Claymation Easter at a thrift store, so that was a really cool find. You don't really ever see that one. And I have yet to watch it, but we're not talking about Easter. We're talking about Christmas. So Will Vinton's Claymation Christmas Celebration, I thought it was very entertaining. It's sort of dated because it has the California raisins in it for a segment. So that's something else. But yeah, 1987, as we're getting ready to see, was a very big year for Christmas specials. So let's move on. Yeah, 87 would see the release of another modern Christmas classic with A Garfield Christmas. First aired on CBS in 1987. They would show it again for, quite a number of years after that, but then it would just sort of just fall away. And it was just one of those things. Like the '87 was just a great year for Christmas specials. We were very much ready for this. At least I was. It was just a good time. This another, again, not very long, 24 minutes. But I don't know. You could say it's not as impactful as Rudolph or Charlie Brown Christmas, but also it's not all that different. It's just really in the same category. To me, it came out at just the right time, and I was just the right age to watch it, and really stuck with me. It really got tattooed on my soul, as it were, because this is just a really fun Christmas special. It just reminds you of really fun times, and '87, just a great year. The late '80s, I think, were just a tremendous time. So Garfield Christmas, another one that's not that easy to find, also not very cheap. At least it wasn't when I bought this probably about 5 years ago. And I haven't really had a reason to check the market lately. So, I mean, because once you have it, you don't really need to look for the price anymore, do you? So, I should go look that up just for curiosity's sakes to see if it is still rather rare out there. This is a 92 distribution, and I believe it was the only time it was released on North American VHS was 92. So I think this is the only distribution. So there is that, and let's move on. Up next, we have another Christmas special featuring an iconic comic strip character / cartoon character with Ziggy's Gift. Now, Ziggy might sort of, I don't know, go under the radar nowadays. Certainly not as memorable as Garfield or Charlie Brown, but he was certainly a big deal back in the day. And Ziggy's Gift here won a bunch of awards for this pleasant little Christmas special. And it is little. It's only about 20 minutes long. So there. And this is a very early Vestron video release, 1982 distribution. There's the early Vestron logo. Didn't include this in the Vestron video collection episode of the show and tell because, well, I sort of forgot this was Vestron. So there you go. Nice tape. Plays very well for being an 82 distribution. This is a very pleasant Christmas special. It starts off innocently enough, but then gets really touching really quick. So it's a very nice, very pleasant Christmas special. If you haven't seen this, it's definitely worth a watch. Ziggy's Gift, nice addition to my Christmas special tape collection. So let's move on. Now, Frosty wasn't the only name in the game when it came to Christmas specials about snowmen, because here we have the Snowman. Now, I should note here that if you watch this expecting Frosty the Snowman, that's not what you're going to get. This is a very different kind of featurette. I don't want to say it's solemn because that's not the word for it, but it's not verbose at all. It's very, I guess, pleasant is the best word to describe it. There's like not really any dialogue or monologue in it at all. Just a lot of very nice songs. Now, when I was a kid, I certainly did not enjoy this, but now as an adult, I love this. It's a very nice little featurette to watch. 1982 distribution there from Sony Video. Hard to get out of the case. There we go. So yes, the Snowman. I think I know this didn't air on network television. I think it aired on like HBO back in the day. So that's what it is. Certainly wasn't a network television special, at least not here in the States. So yes, the Snowman, if you haven't checked this out, certainly do so. And I've been told that the same people that did this also did another animated featurette called Father Christmas, I believe, but I don't think that really aired in the States at all, but I could be mistaken about that. So yes, the Snowman, nice, pleasant little featurette for the Christmas special collection. So let's move on. How about one that perhaps you've never even heard of at all, with the Trolls and the Christmas Express? Now, you might have seen this, or maybe you haven't thought of this in years and years and years, because it's not a very popular Christmas special, very forgotten about, but it certainly exists. And I got to tell you, I didn't really know about this just a few years ago when I got the tape. Wasn't too impressed with this. It's not... I don't know, to me it wasn't all that good. Like, there is certainly better Christmas specials out there. And what I was talking about earlier about Paramount Home Video and their weird dating, this is a prime example of that. Right there on the label you can see 1981, but you probably can't see the very fine print. It actually says 1982, so that's 1982, but then the sleeve says 1988, so I don't know what's going on there. Paramount Home Video has a knack for being all over the place. But this is still an early Paramount release, because you can tell by the longitudinal, or lateral label how they do it, instead of the the horizontal method that they would start doing. So yeah, this is a pretty early release. As far as I know, the only release, U.S. VHS release of this. That's okay. I mean, you can check it out if you want to. But I just not too big a fan of this one. So That's about all I can really say about that, so let's move on. Was there any franchise that would become more of a Christmas powerhouse than the Muppets? Here we have Muppet Family Christmas. First aired in 1987 on NBC, I believe. I'm not sure about that. But again, 87, a huge year for Christmas specials because we also had Garfield's Christmas and Claymation Christmas, and now we have this one. This is an absolute gem. Just fantastic Christmas special. I mean, Jim Henson just really knew what he was doing, and this is just phenomenal stuff. I do love this. Ever since it first aired, I love it. Now it's interesting. This, if you watch the VHS or even the DVD, you'll notice it just seems like there's just a few things missing in it, like just cut scenes. Well, there is. When this first aired, there were other segments that were part of this, but due to these songs that were used, could not be released on home video. So isn't that interesting? Copyright laws are very, very fickle things, and there's lots of moving parts to them. And one of the agreements on using some of these songs, I believe Home for the Holidays was one of them, was they had the rights to use it during the broadcast, but not for home video distribution, which is why the scene where you're introduced to the talking snowman, like Fozzie's outside, and they run into making a snowman, and it becomes sentient, and they do a song together, and eventually the snowman becomes part of Fozzie's comedy act. That whole scene was cut out. Like the introduction of the snowman was cut out because they sing. Did they sing? What other song was it? I don't remember. There is a list of songs that were excluded on the home video because they could not get the distribution rights for it, or they could have. Perhaps the copyright holders wanted too much money for redistribution of them. So, copyright laws are what they are. And speaking of like Christmas music, most Christmas songs are royalty-free or public domain, rather, but some of them aren't. And even stranger is that some of them are public domain, but the lyrics are not. So the instrumental version of a certain song would be public domain, but the lyrical version is not. So that's very interesting. You have to look up a list on what is okay to use if you're trying to use any kind of Christmas songs for any kind of uploads or what have you. So, and that is something you usually learn the hard way, you know. But yeah, so Muppet Family Christmas, absolutely spectacular. One of the things that would pretty much cement anything Jim Henson with Christmas, because even before this, he did a number of Christmas specials, many of which were with John Denver. John Denver and the Muppets for a time were pretty much inseparable. And I don't have any of those, but I do have these. Meanders Jug Band Christmas. What an absolute delight of a special this is. It's Jim Henson, but they're not Muppet. They're not Muppets. Technically, they're not Muppets. And there is a difference. It's all about semantics, really, but the characters featured in Meanders Jug Band Christmas are not Muppets, even though they are of Muppet-style design, obviously, and they are puppeteered by Jim Henson and crew. So, and of course, Kermit is in it. He just does an introduction and an outro. He's just kind of there hanging out. But the reason is this is based on a story, and I can't think of the author's name. It's I can't remember, I'm sorry. But Jim Henson only had the rights to use these characters for this special and could not use these characters again for anything else. So he has these puppets, or rather, well, I don't want to call them Muppets because technically they're not Muppets, but he has these puppets that he could never use again. Now, some of the background characters were used in the Muppet Show. And speaking of Kermit hosting things that really aren't Muppets, but are Muppets, we have the Christmas toy. Another Jim Henson Christmas classic, one that might be a little underplayed. This sort of just goes under everybody's radar. This is just a great Christmas special. Very well done. It's very funny. It's very delightful. It's very heartwarming. It really gets you in the mood for Christmas. And another reason why Jim Henson stuff is tied up with Christmas, because he just did so much Christmas goodness. And here's another example with Christmas Eve on Sesame Street. This was, I believe, I don't remember what year this came out, but it was before these two. I think it was even before Em and Otter's Jug Band Christmas. I'm not sure about that, but this is pretty good. I watched it recently. My only complaint about it is like the opening segment is like 15 minutes of what appears to be a Sesame Street's ice capades routine, because it's the Sesame Street gang ice skating, but they're just people in costumes. So I'm pretty sure it was just footage from an ice capade Sesame Street performance. So that's a little weird. That sort of goes on a little bit too long. You sort of just want to get into it. But once you get into it, it's pretty good. It's pretty touching again, and it's just it's just one of those things. I remember watching this as a very little kid, but I didn't see it again until I think maybe 2 years ago when I got this VHS. So I revisited it, and it didn't disappoint, except for the beginning. The beginning's kind of weird, but you can sort of fast forward that. So yes, here we have 4 Jim Henson Christmas mega hits. Just phenomenal stuff. Glad to have them. And, let's move on. Up next, we have a rather non-traditional Christmas special with He-Man and She-Ra Christmas special. It is exactly that. This was, it continues to be a nostalgic classic today, even though it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But they did their best on trying to make He-Man and She-Ra 2 very, very popular characters and toy lines at the time. They did their best to crowbar them into a Christmas special. It's okay. The whole point of this was to sell toys for Christmas. So in a way, this was the perfect Christmas special, because it combined the Christmas spirit with marketing for the occasion. And this is hard to get out of the case. There it is. It's a UAV distribution, and if you're familiar with UAV, United American Video, then you know that they've always used very low quality tapes. So when you get a distribution that's UAV, the chances are it's not going to play very well. And unfortunately, this one is an example of that. This has some playback issues, which makes it sort of unwatchable. So that sucks. But this wasn't very expensive. And it's definitely a good shelf piece, because this is just an iconic tape to have. It's an iconic Christmas special. It aired, it had an annual airing all the way up to the mid-'90s, so it did have a lot of clout. And of course, people recently have begun revisiting it and viewing it as just like a nostalgic Christmas kind of thing, because it is just so bizarre. And now I'm not entirely sure about this. I'm not entirely sure about the He-Man lore and timeline, but I think this might have been the first crossover with He-Man and She-Ra. Of course, they're brother and sister, but in the shows, I don't think they ever really crossed paths. Now, I might be mistaken about that. My memory of He-Man, Masters of the Universe, is rather foggy, because I really haven't watched them in a very, very long time. But I was a big fan when I was a kid, but I was a very little kid, so I really don't remember that much. But yeah, so this He-Man and She-Ra Christmas special, just one of those tapes you got to have. It's just it's a silly thing. It's not. I mean, it's not bad. They did the best they can. If you haven't seen it, then I would recommend checking it out. I believe it's free on YouTube, so you don't really have to worry about buying anything. But it is worth having. And it is on DVD if you're about to go that route. But yeah, it's sort of delightful, because Skeletor even gets in the Christmas spirit, and he does a face turn. So it's interesting to see Skeletor sort of as the good guy for just a very, very small stint. So it's a rather entertaining Christmas special. Definitely a nice tape for my Christmas collection, even though it doesn't work, but I still like to have it on my shelf. I just like to have it. So it's very nice that this has a home for the holidays. And let's move on. How about another non-traditional Christmas special that was intended to sell toys with the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, I'm Dreaming of a White Ranger. This is a Power Rangers Christmas special, though I think it's just a Christmas episode of the normal season. I'm not entirely too sure about that. What's interesting about this is the second Power Rangers Christmas special they did. 2 of them. This might be the first one, and the Alphas Alpha's Special Christmas. I think that's what it is. That might be the second one. I'm not sure. But I did have Alpha's Special Christmas, but I sold it recently. The Alpha Special Christmas is, well, it's just that. It's Alpha, the android character of the show, just singing Christmas songs with the kids in the Power Rangers hideout. And the Power Rangers aren't really even in that one. They show up at the end, and that's really it. This one, however, is like a standard episode where the Power Rangers are in it, and they have to save Christmas from Lord Zed and Reba Repulsa. This is okay. I mean, it's entertaining. It's like, it's a fun watch. I mean, no one can really contest the popularity of the Power Rangers. So no matter how silly anything they ever were featured in was, they really could do no wrong. And this proved its point. This did its job, and people still talk about this one today. Another one that I'm very glad to have in my collection. So yeah, I mean, definitely check this out if you haven't already. Even if you're not a fan of Power Rangers, matter of fact, if you're not a fan of the Power Rangers, I would recommend watching this, especially because then you'll see just how just remarkably and delightfully silly it is, and it is just a really fun time. So yeah, definitely check this one out. Happy to have this one in my collection, and let's move on. Let's move on to something that perhaps isn't as entertaining as it should be, and how about a very Brady Christmas? And I really don't like to be negative, but sometimes you have to be honest about this, and I was really disappointed in this. Of course, I don't really know what I was expecting, but I was expecting it to be just a little bit more entertaining because, unfortunately, this is a little dull, and it really has all the workings to be quite a great Christmas special. This was a pretty big deal when it first premiered on CBS in 1988. Because I believe it was the first time all the Brady family was back together on television in a very, very long while. So, and this one, of course, encompasses the storyline of all the Bradys who are now grown up. They all get back together for a Christmas reunion, and they get back together in the old house, and and comedy ensues. Well, at least it's supposed to. It's not really much happens. It's more of like a melodrama than it would be. It's like, I don't know. It's just, there's something about it that just doesn't really go very far. It just kind of, I don't know. It just should have been more than it was, and I don't know. It's not that I lose sleep. It's not that I lose sleep over this, but I was just really, I felt bad for it because I was like, man, I really had high hopes for this one, and but it's okay. It's okay. It happens. Not all Christmas specials are good. In fact, I would venture to say that most of them aren't all that good. There's only a very few that are very memorable. And unfortunately, at least for me, this one isn't one of those memorable ones. But still a very nice tape to have. I'm glad I gave it a shot. Will I try it out again? Will I watch it again? No, probably not. More than likely not. I just have no interest in this. It doesn't do it for me as far as Christmas specials go, and this just really should have been a lot more than it was, but it's okay. It's okay. It happens. But still, a great tape to have in my collection. Certainly happy to have it, and it certainly fits in nicely with my Christmas special collection. Well, that's going to about do it for this episode of the show and tell of my Christmas special VHS. I certainly appreciate you watching. Thank you very much for coming along with me today on this little adventure. I certainly hope it puts you in the Christmas spirit. And if it didn't, well, I certainly hope you get there soon. I certainly hope something does. And I also sincerely hope that everything is going very well for you out there. And if it isn't, I even more sincerely hope that it gets better. I know that it will, and you have to know that as well. Just keep hope alive. Look upwards and look onwards, and always stay positive. Put your trust in God and look to Jesus Christ, and everything is going to be all right. There is a plan in action. Trust me on that. So yes, stay positive. And above all things, be generous, be brave, and be kind. And take care out there. And I'll see you next time, only on Captain Adam's VHS Pirate Ship. Goodbye, and God bless.